Oh yeah, it's a mock draft. We're doing a Category League 12-team mock draft, and Michael Bolton is drafting from the one hole. You like one hole, Michael Bolton?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I am beginning my Travis Kelce era. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through to September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms, so hit the thumbs up and hit the double bang. Now, let's get some questions out of the way. Josh, are you going to do an ESPN points mock draft? Yes, multiple of them. Josh, are you going to do a different size points league mock draft? Yes, I will. Josh, have you got auction mock drafts coming up? Yes, I do. Josh, are you going to do a 16-team category league mock draft? Yes. Josh, will you do a 10-team category league mock draft? Probably yes. Am I going to do lots and lots of mock drafts? Absolutely yes. Whatever your question is regarding a mock draft, I'm probably going to do that. When I'm going to do those, I'm not exactly sure. But I think there are some real drafts happening at this point, not a huge amount. So I want to tailor more of the mock drafts, and that's what we'll do a lot now. Then we'll obviously revisit them later on. Same as when we put out like sleeper and bust videos, which will come soonish, and then we'll redo those later on in October as well. There is a plan for all of this stuff. The next question that people ask, hey, is Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl coming back? Yes, it is. I'm just not exactly sure of the form. I mean, there hasn't been an announcement yet. Last year, we started off on the 13th of September. So be looking on the lookout for around that time for information to come out about Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. We are doing a 12-team league. It is a 9-category league. It is a rotisserie league. So bear that in mind when you look at the draft and the draft results. It is a Roto league. It is a Roto league. I am picking randomly, put me in the 12 slot. Don't love that, but whatever. As the kids would say, we move. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. We have spoken about FanDuel so many times. Of course we have. Why wouldn't we? Because they've been like a great partner for us, and they are America's #1 sportsbook. But now, we've got something different. Because now, through to September the 22nd, all FanDuel customers, if you bet $5, you get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So you can look at it one way. You can go, well, I'm just going to spend $5 and get 3 weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket. Or you could bet $5, you can actually win on that bet as well, and still get the NFL Sunday Ticket. You get the YouTube TV base plan that you've got. You're able to watch now every regular season out of market Sunday afternoon NFL game. All you need is that Google account and the current form of payment. And then when you go in there, you can cancel anytime. But like, honestly, why would you? You want to watch these games. NFL season starting soon. Dolphins are going to go to the Super Bowl, I'm sure. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right, so that's going to bring us into talking about this draft. We're, at the time we're recording this at the moment, are 4 minutes away from it starting. Just one thing I'm going to say, like, I didn't do it in this mock draft because I know most of you won't do it because ESPN and Yahoo are stuck in 2001. And it isn't an option you can do. Again, please don't host your leagues there. This is hosted on Fantrax. It just enables ease of me doing things. What I wanted to talk about here is third round reversal. I think even in shallow leagues, it is imperative that we start to have this as a real thing now, because the imbalance between the top of a draft and the second half of the draft is a real thing. And I am working on some other stuff with it. I'm not fully there, but I think there is a real argument to even go just full balls out, and instead of making it third round reversal, making it like hold on to whatever you can. I think that the person who picks 12th, there's an argument to be made that they pick first in every other round. And it's not a snake draft. It just turns into a non-serpentine draft after that. Such is the advantage of the top of the draft. I'm still doing work on that, and I need to see how that impacts the middle road of things. But so far from what I'm looking at, if you do it that way, the top pick, the first and second pick, the value of those guys gets brought down to about the same level as the guys who pick 11th and 12th, which is exactly the sort of idea that we want. I just don't know how it impacts everyone else. It's going to take a little bit more time. Now, I'm not suggesting that we do that at this point, but I think we at very least have to have a third round reversal. And I'm waffling so much here. Let's get the draft going. Might as well. All right, we've got everyone here in the draft room. Let's flick the board across. We are ready to start. I'm just going to unpause the draft and off we go. So I'm picking at 12, as I said, down towards the back end here. T. Fish already made the pick. I had to reverse it, just waiting for everyone to get in there. And Victor Wembanyama goes 1. I have no problem if you want to take Wemby or Jokic at number 1. I do think that Wemby projects out as number 1 for me, but no problem if you want to go a different direction. Shea going at 3 in a roto format is not something that I can get behind. I would be picking Luka there without really any question. And there's going to be an interesting discussion here about Giannis, because there are people who go, well, I can't take Giannis because of the punt free throws at this point. But then they'll say, I'd happily take him at 8 or 9. And I always 100% disagree with that thought process, because the impact that he does on your free throws is exactly the same at pick 4 or 5 versus the impact at 8 or 9 is literally exactly the same. So if you're not willing to do it at 4, you shouldn't be willing to do it at 9. I don't think. Anyway, Shea at 3, Doncic 4, which is a really strong pick. Roto, no playoff weeks. The 2-game week doesn't count here. Davis at 5, I like. Embiid at 6. Embiid, I'm not drafting in a head-to-head league in the first round, but in a Roto league, there is way more value in doing that. So D-Mac, who took him there, NBA Fantasy Bible at 6, totally okay with that. Giannis goes at 7, which is, good. It's good. It does require more work. Halliburton 8, Tatum 9. We are getting to my pick, so I need to start thinking about what I'm actually doing here, what selection I'm going to make, because I don't really know what I'm going to do at this spot. I would love to get, I was going to say Trae Young, maybe? I'm not sure that I will, though. Because remember, this is a 9-category Roto league. In the end, you can probably, especially in a super competitive Roto league, there is some value in some level of punting, but it's not the usual go-to. Kevin Durant goes at number 10. I'm pretty down on Durant this season. But Roto also, with a games cap like we have in this format, gives you the ability to hold on to players who have more injury risk. So like your Kawhis and LaMelos and those sort of players. Steph goes at 11. Like, Kawhi is going to beat this number per game pretty easily. But yeah, what do I do here? I might take... Trae Young is there. Like, his turnovers and field goals are a real problem in this setting. But I am just going to... I'm going to take him with 1 pick. And I think what I'm going to do on this next spot is take Paul George. I think 17 seconds left. You know what? I'm not a big Anthony Edwards guy, but my projections have him around this area. So let's do it. I do not talk about or endorse Anthony Edwards going inside the top 10. Ooh, that Sternhold pick there is really nice of LaMelo Ball. Like, the top of my board at that point was Kawhi. It was LaMelo. It was Kyrie. All have significant risks associated with them, but all could turn out to be first-round players. So I reached down a little bit. The other guy I could have taken there is Donovan Mitchell. I do think that Kenny Atkinson is going to reduce the minutes. That's what he's done. It's what he's literally said that he is going to do. James Harden, who just went off the board there, is someone I would have picked, and those guys go in that spot. And, we're going to use this. We can talk mock drafts, and we can talk all this value, and you guys can sit and watch these things. But, I think it's a good opportunity to just talk about a bunch of different things while we're doing them. Chet Holmgren goes, Kingy, that is interesting. I wouldn't take Chet there in head-to-head. Roto, I'm a little bit more on board with it. We hear this every year, right? I say it. I've been guilty of it. We say, man, I really hate the second round. There's all these guys that I don't love for a second round pick. There are more guys I feel like in the third round. Then we get to the third round and go, man, there's 30 guys that I like in the third round. So I wanted to start looking at that, right? Why is that the case? Well, the reason we feel that way, as I just go through these picks, Mitchell, Holmgren, Sabonis goes in the middle of round 2. Damian Lillard goes there. Devin Booker. These are all strong picks, right? The reason we feel this is that, again, ordinality is something that we look at. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, that's the way we order things. But the way that the value of players sits is that the first 4 guys are like the first ranked player and the 6th ranked player and the 8th ranked player. And then the next bunch of guys, in comparison to the value of the top players, they're the 30th best player, the 25th best player. So that's the reason why when we get to the end of the first round, while we're in the second round, these guys don't feel like second round players. Yeah, because when you compare them to the top of the first round, they're not. They're third round players. They're fourth round players. This is why the third round reversal is going to be really key, I think. Is because even though they might sit at 12 or 13, you go, man, there's no way that Paul George, Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, Paul George still hasn't gone. I was considering taking him at that spot. He still hasn't gone somehow. I was going to take him at 13. Then you go, man, that's too high. But 13 is not 13. And I know that could be a harder... probably we'll do a show and... Holy shit, Derek White. What on earth just happened? Derek White just went at pick 22. What? So Lillard, Booker, Irving, White. Okay. And then Scotty Barnes at 23 and Brunson at 24. But the reason we look at this second round and end of the first and go, man, really like this guy, be more happy with him in the third round, is because overall the numbers they put up are third round type players. But because there's this dearth of players that you would consider in that 7 to 20 range, these players who are more 24 to 30 have to get pushed up into that zone, and it feels like, man, what a terrible area of a draft. Because we are so hyper-focused on ordinality. It's where auctions can come in as well. Because with auctions, the top player doesn't have to go for 70, the next one have to go for 69, the next one have to go for 68. You can have these guys go for 70, the next player goes for 50. And that's a better distribution of value. So, round 2 is done. Brunson goes at the end of round 2. Then Kawhi, great pick. Fantastic pick from T-Fish. I would have snagged Kawhi 100% if he came back to me. And if this was third round reversal, well, I probably would have been picking him there, wouldn't I? LeBron, Towns. That's the thing. You get Wemby and you get Kawhi there because it's enough risk taken out of it in a Roto format. You will smash this league. And T-Fish is going to smash this league. I assure you with this pick. And I'm becoming extraordinarily adamant that we've got to do auctions or it has to be a form of reversal. It has to be. Otherwise, you need bad luck for the top teams and piss poor luck for the back end teams. There are ways that I can mitigate this through games caps and streaming restrictions and all that sort of stuff. But even then, it's hard. So Towns goes with the third pick in round 3. Markkanen, Maxey, Paul George, D-Mac. That is absolute thievery to get Paul George in the middle of round 3 at pick number 30. Again, I considered him at pick 13. That, to me, the Kawhi pick is going to work out fantastically, I think. The LeBron pick at number 26 is great. And the Paul George pick there at 30 is ludicrously good. That is just a ludicrously good pick. I am going to be looking, I'm guessing, at this number 12 pick as even the Van Vliet pick there from Dirty Dirty, great name, is a great spot. De'Aaron Fox goes next at number 32. I'm going to be looking at one of the Jalen's, I think Williams or Johnson. In that spot, I'm going to be considering an Evan Mobley. I'll consider Jimmy Butler in a Roto format. Well, there goes Jalen Williams, the Bronco, goes at pick number 33. I obviously need a big, so Evan Mobley is going to be, maybe, if I can get, will I get him though? 2 picks, Mobley is who I want here, or Jaren. I got Jaren last time. Jaren just goes at 10, or not 10, at 34. Sternhold, if you could leave Mobley for me, I'd be very, or Şengün, or Bam. Cade goes. All right, so all right, let's take Mobley here. And I think I'm probably... I'm going to take Mobley after Cade goes at 35. And then we run into the problem. Let's just pick Mobley before we get timed out. Of where, what... I need to make sure I'm still securing assists because they're not an easy category to come by. But the center run is going to be troubling. Maybe it's Idris Adebayo. Let's just double up on some bigs there. So I took Evan Mobley at 36, Bam Adebayo at 37. Bam doesn't block shots, which is an annoying thing for a center, but he's a pretty good steals guy. I don't really see him elevating massively from where he is, but again, his game is relatively roto-friendly. Again, Jimmy Butler, I think, I say again a lot, don't I? Too much, some would say. Jimmy Butler, I think, really does strike me as a strong player around here. And Jalen Johnson didn't go. I very easily could have taken him in this spot as well. Şengün is another one. Yeah, there we go. Şengün goes at 38. So this is what I mean. Like when we back to that earlier discussion about ordinality, is that these players, right? Let's talk about Kawhi at the start of round 3. All of those guys, you're very comfortable with those guys in round 3. And then I took Bam at the start of 4 and Şengün went, then Jalen Johnson went, then Miles Turner. That's probably a little early for Miles Turner, but all of those guys are very easily third round players. You go, well, of course, I'd love to have multiple third round picks and get those guys there. And it's part of my ideal auction type strategy as well. Is I don't love going the top end players. I'd rather save some money and smash out 7 top 50 guys if I can with no one better than top 25. That's where I think a lot of that value sits, is in that conglomerate accumulation of talent in that third round area. Well, Kingy takes Paolo Banchero every single draft. Pick 41. It is a Roto League. Kingy, that is very hard to deal with, man. That is, I tell you what's also going to be interesting. So many of us, not everyone in here is an analyst. There's Scott, there's Rhett, there is DMAC, Kingy, Pappy Roy, me, and one of the other guys from Menace Podman as well, I think is in here. But the others are people that I put this out to on Twitter to get in here. That you do so many... DMAC with Jimmy Butler. Oh, man. He got Lillard, Embiid, George, and Butler. Now, that is a terrifying combination. I'll talk more about what I was going to say in a minute. That's a terrifying combination in 2 ways. For us, if they stay healthy, he will cook. But Butler, George, Lillard, and Embiid, man, like you are... unbelievably risky. And the thing is, you're in a Roto League, that is more possible. So what I was talking about is analysts. Like we do so many of these mock drafts, and in our group chats, everyone's got, hey, do this mock, do this. There's going to be someone who's like, oh man, I didn't realize it was Roto. Even though it is on the title at the top of the screen, even though it was put in the chat, there's going to be someone who's like, I didn't know it was Roto. Now, whether that's Kingy or not, I don't know. DMAC 100% knows this is Roto, hence why he picked those guys. Someone will not know that it's Roto, I'm sure of that. So after Butler goes at pick 43, it was Desmond Bain at 44, Jamal Murray, the headmaster, at 45, and DeMar DeRozan at number 46, which again, I think is pretty strong. This format, this Roto Games Cap format, is going to make it way more possible to draft the big fella Kristaps Porzingis, even though he's out until January. I won't do it until I'm outside the top 100, but he is more possible there. And then Ja Morant comes in at number 47. Now, Ja initially was put at 313 on Yahoo. That has been adjusted. He is into number 42 now. And while historically he hasn't been a good category league player, he is a borderline first-round points league guy. He is a guy that I do think is going to be a category top 50 player. In Roto, it's a little harder to be that excited about him, but I don't really have a problem with it. Jaylen Brown rounds out round 4 at number 48. So the top of my board is guys like Franz Wagner, it's Ayton, it's Zion, it's Quickly, Toby Harris, Alex Caruso, huge boost in this format, Brandon Miller, Hartenstein, did I say Trey Murphy's in that mix as well? Though how those minutes go, I got no idea. I really like what T-Fish is doing there. That Quickly pick is great. So he's got Wemby, he's got Kawhi, he's got Quickly. He's doing a lot of really good stuff. His team is going to be very, very difficult to beat. And 4 rounds in, look at my projections, he sits at the top of that list there, which is no surprise. So after Quickly, who starts round 5 at pick 49, it's Siakam, it's Toby Harris. So people roasted me for taking Toby at 51, and someone just took him at 51. Toby Harris, in a straight 9-cat ranking last season, was a top 50 player, and now he moves to Detroit where he gets more opportunities. And in a lot of leagues, you will not need to take him here. I'm assure you of this. But I think he's a relatively safe play in the 70s or 80s with more upside than that. Jarrett Allen and Jalen Duren. I don't know about Duren at 53, but whatever, he's fine. Allen at 52. This is where we get into the big center drought. It is harder to find centers here until we get to a big run in around round 7, round 8. But DeAndre Ayton is still there. Oh, no, he isn't. Well, there you go, 3 in a row. Allen, Duren, Ayton goes at 54 to DMAC. Ayton cooked last season down the stretch. Obviously, whatever he cooked at the first half of the season smelled like shit, so we couldn't get involved in that. But at the end of the year, he was great. The problem there is that Don Klingon is there. So where the hell does Rob Williams is there? What do they do? But I detailed this yesterday on the Rookie Show, talking about Ayton. And they go, well, they've got Klingon. I go, yeah, have a look at what's happened with Okongwu and Capella. Okongwu was picked higher in the draft than Klingon was. I think he was a better prospect than Klingon. And it was a stronger draft. Yet he sat as a backup for 4 years. Again, that is not the norm. But that doesn't mean that Portland just need to just dump Ayton immediately. So we're getting back to my pick now. Ayton, Gobert. Wow, look at the centers. Ayton, Gobert, Mark Williams. Wowee. Zion goes. Now it's Pappy Roy. Now I really got to think what I'm going to do here. Do I take Hartenstein? I think I do. And what I also need to make sure I'm focusing on, which... Franz Wagner, I'll put him in my queue. Vooch. Yep, I'm on board with Vooch there at 58. What I need to focus on is like getting some scoring. So, Zach LaVine? Oh, no. There goes Hartenstein. Do I take Brad Beal? I'm gonna take just a ping at Zach LaVine, pick 60. And then, what do I do after that? All right, so I'm going to take LaVine at 60. Remember, I'm on the turn, so my next picks don't come for 10 years after this. 84 is my next pick. I want to get some scoring in there. Beal was another option. OG was an option. Vassell is an option. Do I take Garlo? What are my assists looking like? I need more bigs. Minutes, time running down. Bigs are in trouble. Let's take Franz. I wanted to take Brandon Miller there, but I wasn't ready to pull that trigger because I had 1 second left and he wasn't in my queue. We have run a 30-second timer in these mocks just because I want the show to not go for an hour and 20 minutes. In real life, I think a minute is a decent time on a draft timer. Again, I don't want my fantasy league decided by someone timing out, missing a pick, becoming disinterested in the league. Yeah, there's no point to that. I'd rather have the extra time or allow a rollback just so the guy gets who they want. And let's do a real battle of skill. And I know there is a skill in making sure you're on top of the timer and all that sort of stuff. And most people aren't talking into a camera when they're mock drafting the way I am. But I also just don't think that needs to be the punishment that can have a balance or an impact on the league. I like Pappy Roy taking Garland there. Vassell, these are all guys that I mentioned that I was considering. I wanted a little bit more rebounding, a little bit more big stuff with Wagner, and I would have grabbed Hartenstein had Sternhold not taking him. That is Miles Bridges going ahead of Mikal Bridges, which I think a lot of people may not have expected. Or maybe they did, actually. Maybe they did. Is there any shot Brandon Miller no, because he just went to Kingy. Someone who is continually underrated at the moment is Big Sexo, Colin Sexton. I'm going to throw him into my queue. I do need blocks. I'm finding myself getting a lot of Jakob Poeltl. At 84, he will be there for me. I will throw him in. Well, there goes Claxton. That is a nice ping to get Claxton there. So let's talk through it. Miles Bridges went at 64. Brandon Miller 65. Simon 66. Barrett Beal 67. Claxton 68. Pretty strong stuff. Mikal Bridges hovering. Still there. Well, there he goes. Rhett Bauer takes him at 69. Giga Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram also sliding. Obviously, their value is not super strong in a Roto format. I really need big men, and it is a little dire. Okay, so let's throw a couple of these young guys into the queue. Derek Lively, Walker Kessler. Just sliding into the queue. So after Mikal Bridges goes Jabari Smith at 70, early. D'Angelo Russell 71, Giddey 72, Julius Randle 73. That is a percentage herder and a defensive stats herder for T-Fish. Now look what he's done in those other spots. Like quickly not a defensive stats guy. Well, he's got Wemby obviously, but that's an interesting scenario. Remember, in a Roto League, you don't need to hyper stack a category because you don't need to give yourself short-term sample certainty of winning a category. You need to accumulate it over 82 games. And that's the difference. Again. One of the things we need to focus on is analysts, sites, rankings, articles. All of them, and I am guilty of this to a degree. I'm trying to be better at it. All of them talk about an average. All of them talk about a full season number or an impact. And that is all rooted in the history of fantasy basketball, which is Roto. And we're at Roto here. Obviously, this is a Roto league. But the differences in that versus head-to-head is very, very different. Yet everything that we seem to talk about and break down is based on Roto type scoring, and that is just not an accurate way to play head-to-head. Understand your differences. Randall at pick... What are we talking? Okay, auto pick me said it's okay. Randall went at 73, Ingram 74, Austin Reeves 75, and then Brook Lopez 76. He said it was an auto pick, but it was from his queue, so it's okay. It's probably a little early, but whatever, that's okay. OG next, and then Tyler Hero at 78. I haven't really seen Hero going in that spot very many times. Trey Murphy, also someone I need to... He's sitting at the top of my projection list pretty comfortably, as is Alex Caruso. But of course, the lack of scoring from Caruso does turn people away. So I am getting desperate for blocks and rebounds. CJ McCollum goes next at number 79. Cam Thomas at number 80. He's going to score, and Kingy loves grabbing Cam Thomas. He is going to score. We know that. We need to see some of those other things jump up. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But that is a perfect head-to-head spot. He goes higher than that in a points league. Roto, I'd probably push him back a little, but whatever. Kingy's team is also built very head-to-head. And I can't wait to message him to see whether he knows whether it's Roto or head-to-head. I think he will, but I don't know. Ooh, I do not like Rozier this season, by the way. But there he goes at pick number 81. He was quite poor, I thought, in Miami. But whatever. Okay, so I've got 84 and 85. My next pick's not to 108. I don't get centers here. They are not go. Oh, Valanciunas goes. Well, that's good because I didn't want him. But I am going to be in some trouble. Because that is what we're talking about, guys. Like, I could get a Kongwu or Nurkic later, but Kessler went. Jeez. Can I take Big Yak? I get Pirtle in every mock draft. I've been talking to Locked On Raptors host Sean Woodley. He says, man, like, I think Pirtle's going to have a really big year. And I went, yeah. Thanks for saying that. I'm sort of with you. So I'm excited to see what he can do. You guys, I think Pirtle's being slept on. I think that too. I might... Do we take the Rabbit Hunter here? Good blocks guy. Good out of position. Or no, just take Zubats. Let's just lock down some big man numbers. Because again, we're talking like there's Lively left. There's a Kongwu. Then it starts to get like pretty iffy. Pretty iffy. There are a few assist guys floating. It's not many scoring players around. But that's where I hope I can get Sexton on the flip back. Doubt I will. But look at that. 4 centers in a row. We have the 5 centers in the middle. 4 centers in a row here. I've got 4 centers on my team now. All right, I'm happy with that though. So after Zubats goes Trey Murphy, that is a very, very good pick from you, Sternhold. I like that idea. He was right at the top of my list. Looking at my team now, I have got no threes. So that's where Trey would have really come in. But that's when I'm going to start to look at Jordan Poole, Keegan Murray, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Armin Thompson is going to be really... I think Armin's going to go in this round. Whoa, Jordan Poole went. Trace Jackson Davis. I've grabbed Trace in both my other mocks. I don't think I've gone as high as round 8. If we hear Trace Jackson Davis is starting, this is maybe too late, to be honest. He can smash that number. That's pick number 88 for Trace. Maybe not actually. Ooh, finally, a Kongwu goes before Capella. And that's Kingy again. As you know, I spoke to Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks on this show last week, and he finally thinks that Okongwu will start. Last season, he still thought Capella would start, and he was like, I think there is a shot maybe they trade him, but this season he's like, I think they have to start him. And we will find out, won't we? There goes Twitter Fingers legend Kyle Kuzma at pick number 90, followed by Chris Middleton, D-Mac. D-Mac just racking them up, man. Embiid, George, Butler, Beal, Middleton. And by racking them up, I mean the oldest bastards in the world who can't stay healthy. But if they do, that team is unbelievable. Why did that sound like a Trump impression? That's an unbelievable team. It's really so great. That's a bad Trump impression, I know. Maga Porter, speaking of Trump, Maga Porter goes at 92. Still got 3 guys in my queue. I'm going to chuck Keegan in there too, although he's sitting at the top of this Fantrax queue, so I think he'll go soon. Drew Holiday, A lot of the Celtics guys are going to see great early season numbers or better early season numbers. And I think that it all winds down second half. Rests, load management, the return of Porzingis, meaning usage cuts. It's going to be, unless they have a really bad start to the year, which I don't really think they will, it's going to be interesting. Dan Gafford goes at 95 before Lively. I will be stunned if Gafford plays more minutes than Lively this season. I think on a per minute basis, Gafford is still a better fantasy player, but they should be leaning into 28 minutes of Lively, and I hope they do. Herbalife Jones. He goes at 95. This, interesting to me, he goes ahead of Alex Caruso, but this is the right range for him. We are starting to get into Al Horford, Chris Paul territory as well. Kobe White, Yusuf Nurkic. Nurkic 97. I'm going to throw the bucket John Kuminga into my queue as well. Who just went? Oh, Derek Lively. Sort of the centers are centering. Pods. I wonder how people react to the quote about Brandon Podziemski yesterday about saying that he said that the Warriors want him to take 8 to 10 threes per game. Now, that is a lot. 16 players last season took 8 or more threes. Now, 2 of them were Curry and Clay. Podziemski took 3.6 in 27 minutes. So I think he's going to play more minutes. And the thing that I take out of that quote more about Podziemski saying 8 to 10 threes is that to me suggests that he is playing 30 plus minutes. You are not getting up 8 to 10 threes in a 27-minute reserve role or a 24-minute reserve role. You are not. That is not happening. So to me, that means he is clearly starting ahead of Buddy Hield and he is clearly starting ahead of DeAnthony Melton. That's what I take from that. Getting 8 to 10 threes is just not, it's not a realistic target for a guy who's a fine shooter, but he's not that shooter. 6 a game? Sure. Right? 8 to 10 is crazy. But it gives me more confidence in his minutes. The bucket, John Kuminga goes at pick 99 and then Rowan Barrett at pick 100. John Collins at 101. Now, Barrett's free throws are trash. We know this. His defensive stats aren't great. His value in a Roto league is not as good as a head-to-head league, which is not as good as a points league, but it's still reasonable here. Now, the guy that's at the top of my board here is Alex Caruso and Jalen Suggs and Colin Sexton, and I've all got them as top 70 players in this format. So I will be very happy. I'll throw Suggs into my queue. There goes Chris Paul and Draymond Green. Al Horford should be starting to be considered here. Yes, he's going to miss games, but the Celtics have the fewest back-to-backs in the NBA, and this is a Roto Games Cap format. It's hard with his scoring, I know this. Scooter goes. Ooh, Kingy. Kingy is leaning into some stuff. And there goes Dayrock at pick 105, taking Kristaps Porzingis, which is reasonable. Bogdan Bogdanovic goes, is it a little early? Maybe 106. So I do, or Podziemski, do I just take pods? No, I've got to, okay, Caruso is a must for me here. And then I think it's Sexton. I just need scoring. Sternhold really thinking it through. He takes Keegan. Well, he was one of my choices. So let's take Alex Caruso. And apparently have no forward eligible players. Well, that's not true. I just move Anthony Edwards there to make my team look better. Let's take Sexton there. And now my next picks are 132. Yeah, so Podziemski's not coming back around to me, but I would have considered him. He was absolutely in that mix for me here. Suggs should be in this mix as well. Armin Thompson, Cam Johnson, Dyson Daniels, Sohan, Wiggins. These are all in this. Tyus Jones as well. Well, there goes Podziemski one spot later. So obviously that didn't fall to me. And this is about, I can see Pods being a really strong riser, like coming into the top 80 at some point in draft season. And that will be too much for me. And I really like Pods. I loved him in the draft. I had him as a lottery player, I think at 14 maybe in that draft, or 13. Was big on him even last season in fantasy once we started to see the role that he pushed into. We're just always going to be careful of not getting carried away. Clint Capella goes after that at 111, and then Al Horford at 112, which again, this format is perfect for Horford. It's 9 category. It's games cap. It's Roto. It's not head-to-head. In points, I wouldn't draft Al Horford. In a 12 team, I would not draft him. In a category league, I probably would, but you understand the games he's going to miss and the lack of scoring and usage and the week-to-week variance of a player like that is tough. Andre Drummond, that is unbelievably early from that. Kingy, what is happening? 113 on Andre Drummond. Now, the thing with that's hard, and maybe I'll do a show on this. Oh, who knows? I've got so many. You should see my list of shows, like 50 shows on there that I want to do. Like, when we talk about projecting someone like Andre Drummond, we can project that Andre Drummond will play 21 minutes a game this season. Yep, that's reasonable. But the way that works, or maybe he'll average 8 rebounds a game. But the way that it works is he'll play 14 minutes a night most of the time, which is not usable. And then when Joel Embiid misses games, he'll play 30, which is top 30 value. Now, in a Roto game cap situation, you can sit him on your bench all season. So for that part of it, I get it, Kingy. That is okay, you sit him there. But like when you look at the numbers, I go, well, if he averages 22 for the year, that's great. But again, that all brings us, and for Roto, that is what the numbers he will bring will be. 21, 22 minutes, solid numbers. But if you're talking head-to-head, that doesn't mean anything. Him averaging 21 minutes, Andre Drummond, for the season and averaging 9 points and 8 rebounds and 1.3 blocks. And you go, oh, that's good for 101st best player. It doesn't mean a single thing because it's all weeks of 30 minutes or games of 30 minutes. And then it's the 190th best player for 55 games playing 14 minutes, which is useless. And I hope that concept makes sense. After Drummond goes Clay, Mitchell Robinson, Jalen Green. There goes Amen Thompson at, what pick was Amen? 117, really like that. Mike Conley, love that. Denny Avdia, as much as I'm not as big on Avdia as other people, this is a fantastic spot for him. And then Jalen Suggs to round out round 10 at 120. I would have taken Suggsy back in that other spot, considering it. Love it. Then there goes Alex Sarr at 21 and then Wendell Carter at 122. So we are into our bench now. We've got our 10 starters sorted. We are talking bench. And in a Roto Games Cap league, I've set the limit per position at 84 in this league. So we go a little bit over 82. You use some of your bench, probably your first bench guy you use most of his games, and the next one you use 50%, the next one you use 10, 20%. That depends on injuries. So we can take guys that we can sit on. We can take handcuffs. We can take reserves. We can take stash guys. And there's different strategies here. Wendell Carter Jr., not a stash guy. A solid enough player that you'll use most of the time. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, now in Orlando. Scott takes him there. Not a stash guy. No upside, but solid enough. Taylor Hendricks, stash. You might not use him. He might not start. I don't know. But he could actually pop off. Cam Johnson, that's more of a safer pick. You actually think he's got a bit of upside. Jeremy Grant, round 11 for DMAC. That's really good. These are all solid picks. I'm surprised that Naz Reid hasn't gone or Keontae George. I'm just going to chuck those dudes in the queue and Tyus Jones. Oh, there he goes there. So Marcus Smart and then Tyus Jones. Kingy taking Tyus Jones there. Again, I am not as big on Tyus Jones this season as others are, but him at that spot is ridiculous. I'm sure Kingy's annoyed that he didn't get Dyson Daniels in that spot. Just figured out that Kingy's the main character of this mock draft. You're talking about his team a lot. Dyson Daniels, John Isaac, really good from you there, Puppy Roy. This format is perfect for a John Isaac scenario. So what do I do? Because a lot of the guys that are at the top of my list have gone. I still need threes desperately. Khalil Ware, Superman. All right, so you know what I'm going to do here? His season is not going to be as good as last year's. But let's just take the big ragu, Dante DiVincenzo, because if someone gets hurt, the minutes will go up. Is there a big that I can take here? I say that. Okay. I would like Keontae, but I want to get an extra big. Let's go with the Wizard of Naz Reid, who I don't like him being picked in the top 100, but I absolutely do like me picking him at 133, which is where I just got Naz Reid. So my 11th pick was DiVincenzo, my 12th pick was Reid. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily high flyer upside types, but I will be doing that in round 13 and 14. Shout out to my man Carlo Matkovic, who might play 0 minutes or be a starter in New Orleans. Who else do I want to look at? Like a lot of the guys that I was considering through all of these picks, they just seem to go like 1-2 picks after me, like Pajemski. Even Keontae just went 2 picks after me there. Hartenstein went a pick before me, not that he's a flyer necessarily. I wanted to get a Jalen Johnson and then someone else. Not that they didn't jump in front of me for Jalen, but I had to focus on other areas. But it's all just around that area. There goes, Keontae George goes at pick 135, and then Ayo Dosunmu at 136. Now, if we look at the Sohan 137, Grayson Allen 138, let's talk about Dosunmu because the Bulls have Kobe White, Josh Giddey, Zach LaVine, maybe Lonzo Ball. That's a hard road. That's the level of hardness of a road, giggity, of Reed Shepherd getting minutes. Did I even say Kobe White? Kobe White, Josh Giddey, Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball. It's tough, man. Like, he had a really good second half of the year, Dosunmu, but the role is tough. So Grayson Allen goes, then Zach Edey goes. As much I did a whole rookie show yesterday, and I talked about how I don't have any top 100 rookies, but yeah, Edey here is great. Like, that's fine. Take that chance. Bob Portis, yeah, that's fine actually. Asar Thompson, Dennis Schroeder, probably going to be the starter in Brooklyn. Maybe he's not a great all-around contributor, but like at this spot, who cares, man? I love that. The big fella, the prestige penis, grade A dick, goes at 143. We're not about B grade dick or C grade dick. It's all about A grade dick or grade A dick, some may say. Ben Simmons goes at 144. Shout out to the people who will turn off the show. Mate, not stop talking homosexual talk about dicks. Okay. Ben Simmons, 144. Look, we know that it could be a disaster. In fact, Ben Simmons is likely a disaster in a Roto league, irrespective of if he plays or not. But maybe. Like, you take that chance. And then he takes DeAnthony Melton, then goes Tari Eason to start off round 3. So Melton at the 145 spot, and then Eason at 146. Who's hanging around that I do like as a upside play? It's rough. I do want to take just a young guy at some point. That sounds rude, but... Or you know what? Like, if I want to highlight the value of stashing or handcuffing in a Roto Games Cap format, Isaiah Jackson is going onto my list. Because if Turner gets hurt, well, we are in for something. And Jaime Jaquez, if Jim Butler is out, is going to be better than this. So they're going into my list. So Brogdon goes at 147, Malcolm Brogdon. Rhett Bauer auto picks Shaden Sharp, which is fine. I think he's having some issues with his kids at the moment. Andy Nembhard, who was great in the playoffs, but we've seen him start many times and he was not good. So I don't know what we get there, but that's, again, totally fine. D-Mac. That is probably the one I should have looked at, is the big fella Noah Clowney, who I think is a huge shot to be a very, very good player. I am also losing my voice, but apart from that, like, if I want to talk rookies, I might put Big Zach Risichet into my queue. I don't think I'll do Reed Shepherd, but I'll chuck him there anyway. So after Clowney goes Healed, I just don't think there's any upside in him. Gaz Trent is fine. Josh Green also probably starts, but not much upside. I've got Carlo in my queue, and you'll know that I want to take Carlo, or at least put him on your radar. Shove it down your ear holes that Carlo's an option. I don't think I'll do it. I'm going to take Jaime and Isaiah Jackson as stashable players here. There's no Risichet in that group, but that's who I'll take. The other one to consider there is like I say, I hate that Plumlee pick. The other one to consider there is like a Jalen Smith in Chicago. But let's take Jaquez at that spot. And then for my final pick, let's take Isaiah Jackson. Understanding when I take Isaiah Jackson that it's about, like, if Turner goes down, we're dealing with a top 60 player and he's a stash, he sits on my bench. You can do that with Jalen Smith. You can do that with Carlo Matkovic. You could do that with Reed Shepherd in case Fred VanVleet gets hurt. It's a little bit harder to get there. And as you're well aware, or I hope you are, is that when I talk about stashability, the NBA, if a point guard goes down, you usually can get a pretty big boost from a backup point guard. If a center goes down, you can usually get a 17-minute guy turning into a 30-minute guy. If a shooting guard goes down, if a small forward goes down, if a power forward goes down, you might get 6 guys, you get 4 extra minutes each. So it's not as 1-for-1. After I took Isaiah Jackson to start off round 14, which was pick 157, Keon Ellis goes at 158, which is a really strong pick. Jaden McDaniels, he doesn't do anything for fantasy, but whatever. No upside in him. Spencer Dinwiddie, I've seen less upside. I don't even... But, okay. I take that back, Dayrock. Because if Luka Doncic gets hurt, yes, Kyrie will be there, but Dinwiddie will play 27, 28 minutes a night. Now, he's not a very good Roto player, so maybe that's part of my hatred. But, yeah. Malik Monk, I think, King, that's great. He probably lasted 3 rounds too long, I would say, old Leaky. No Dan Titus in this draft, so no one else is going to be taking Carlo Matkovic is my guess. So what do we do? Who's up now? It is Dirty Dirry. Time is running out, my guy. He gets auto-pick with Aaron Gordon. I'm not reversing. It's the last round. I don't care. He didn't say anything. Bad luck. He was here. I would have done it earlier on. I just don't care at this point. Jaden Ivey absolutely worth a flyer here. Andrew Wiggins needs to be drafted. Jalen Smith, I like your thinking, D-Mac. So D-Mac knows this is Roto. D-Mac is taking stashes, taking flyers. That is smart. When Vooch is bad, and if they either bench him, unlikely trade him, maybe, Smith is going to be pretty good, I think. And he's also not a very good player in real life, but he's got an interesting stat set. So we're down to the final 5 picks here in this rotisserie 9-category mock draft. This isn't about like stealing ADP value necessarily, because that's I think, and you'll notice this, that when you play a lot of your real life leagues, ADP goes out the window real quick. So you could have waited and got this guy. Most of the time, that's not, look, you do a million mock drafts and you go, shit, I got into my real draft and like guys were jumping 30, 40 spots. They were falling. It was all over the shop. Yeah, that's usually how that happens. And we have a hyper focus on, well, here's a Yahoo mock where there's bots everywhere, people doing stuff that makes no sense. They follow ADP, and it has no bearing on reality. So after Jalen Smith goes Don Klingon, who I don't think has starter upside because I don't think he can play starters minutes. I don't think that he can actually play that long on the court at this point in his career. Josh Hart goes to Rhett Bauer, even though he's on the auto pick. That's okay. Aaron Nesmith, who is solid, but very, very low upside in my opinion. 2 picks left. A little surprised that Wiggins hasn't gone. Well, there he goes. Andy Wiggins. And then what do we do last pick? Steph Castle. Do we take Ricochet? Who was the final pick there? It was Reed Shepherd. So, some very interesting undrafted players. I'll go through my team in a second. I just want to highlight the guys that weren't drafted. Karis LeVert. Brandon Clark. Caleb Martin. Kelly Oubre. Russell Westbrook. Norman Powell. Patrick Williams. I'm talking about guys who play maybe starters minutes. Bojan Bogdanovic. Rui Hachimura. Zach Ricochet, Terrence Mann, Bilal Coulibaly, Daniel Tice and Karlo Makovic, Nikola Jovic, Kevin Porter, Jordan Clarkson. Quite a few interesting names there. Now, my team, hate the slot. Hate picking pick 12. I started with Trae Young and Anthony Edwards. It's a really weird combination, Josh. I don't really know why I did it. The top of my board was Kawhi and LaMelo. I was never going to do that, even though I think the value of those guys is really strong there. Maybe I should have just said screw it and just taken those guys at 12 and 13, posted a picture of this mock draft out, and people roast me, man, your team is dreadful, Josh. Now, again, this is all taking a grain of salt, and I'll go through this in a second. But, I'm pretty happy with how the team looks. So it's Trae Young, Anthony Edwards, Evan Mobley, Bam Adebayo. You'll notice that I really was paying attention to some categorical needs and categorical scarcity. In round 5, it's Levine and Franz Wagner. Then it's Jakob Poeltl and Ivica Zubac, who I think Poeltl is going to be, and Zubac are going to be guys that I get in so many drafts this season, especially picking at this area. Alex Caruso in round 9, Colin Sexton in 10. The big Ragu, Dante DiVincenzo. He is at selection 11. 12 is Nazareth Reed. 13 is Jaime Jaquez as a Jimmy Butler stash. And 14 is Isaiah Jackson as a Miles Turner handcuff stash. In terms of projected standings, my team comes out on top. Again, it uses my projections. So we understand that. But I'm happy to be able to at least get a team that doesn't look dreadful at the top of the standings. I've got T-Fish, who picked at number 2 next. I picked number 1. Kingy projects at 3. Okay, Kingy, well done. Then it was Dylan, Aiden, Dirty Deary, Scott Keller, Pappy Roy, Rhett Bauer, Sternhold, D-Rock, and then D-Mac, NBA Fantasy Bible down the bottom. I actually like D-Mac's team. I think part of why D-Mac's team pushes down towards the bottom of the standings is there is just so many injury risks. And it could easily work out like Embiid. And in Roto, we can talk about the ability to have games cap and sit these guys. But if you have 6 of them, you don't have the ability to do that. So it's a balance. So that's where I think D-Mac, while it's great, but if Embiid misses 30 and Lillard misses 15 and George misses 20 and Butler misses 20 and Beal misses 25 and Middleton misses 20 and Paul misses 20 and Robinson misses 30, if Jeremy Grant gets Ides of March again, you don't have that ability, that bench space to actually make those games up. So I think that's part of why his numbers didn't project super well. I think that's part of that reason. But he finished on the bottom of these projections, but again, that doesn't mean that much. His percentages are really strong. It's his counting stats are low, which is a games played thing. So if they play those games or play more than I project, his team's going to be really good. And that's where, again, don't get overhyped or get over down on your post-draft projected standings or things like that. So, what did you think? I'm sure you're going to tell me that this is the worst team you've seen and mock draft is so bad and you don't know what you're saying, man, what a trash team, and I would have done this and I would have done that. That's all well and good. But also remember, now I don't say that I know everything that's going to happen. Nobody does. We try and just make the best and take the players that we think have a chance to exceed value, that make sense on our team, understanding what's happening after those picks. That is the way to do it, I believe. So, give us your opinion on how this draft played out. What was weird to you? What was great? Let me know. One thing I will mention, that one of the things we've introduced at Basketball Monster this season is a different projected standings tool. I talked a lot about this last season as well, that we look at like a projected standings and we look at a matchup where if you have, projected 40 blocks and your opponent is projected 38 blocks, you go, well, yeah, I'm going to win it. Okay. But in reality, like that's a coin flip. Versus like if you've got 40 blocks projected and your opponent's got 15, well, it's like 99% you're going to win it. So the new thing we've got for head-to-head leagues and projecting is a probability type standings. Not like my team's averaging 1.4 blocks for the year and you're averaging 1.38. Therefore, I am going to beat you every time. That's not how that works. We've got more probabilities built into it. So that's just a different way to be able to, again, focus on the differences between Roto and the differences between head-to-head in trying to project stuff out. I put all those numbers again here into the standings tool, the analysis monster on Basketball Monster. I included the games limit stuff here, and yeah, T-Fish and me up the top. The T-Fish did push ahead of me in this final analysis, and what is interesting is that when you look at T-Fish's categories, he gets a 1 in turnover, so he's the worst turnover team. I had a 2 in the three-pointer category, so I'm up the top there, despite sort of punting a category. Dylan had a 1 in the threes category, so he's punting that. So when a league is very competitive, punting can be useful in Roto. And when we get back to talk about your NBA Fantasy Bible, we've got a stat here that shows you what percentage of your bench players you would actually need to use. When I look at D-Mac's team, he's got the highest percentage. It's 64% of those games would need to be used based on our projections for games played for the top bunch. Whereas my team, for example, 34% of my bench guys. So those guys are literally just sort of stashy sort of players. So there is big differences there. So like if he gets some really like even worse health, D-Mac is cooked. If he gets better health, he shoots way up. Me, if I get some injuries to my top guys, I've got my bench guys that should be able to fill in, hopefully. Because I'm not actually using them much if everything goes according to plan. I hope all that makes sense. It might not. That's okay. As I said, give us the old Dutch rudder, the thumb, the double bang. We're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.